Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today we are back at it with the HRCYED recommendations, and we have reached the rainbow of words. So basically that is finding the color in the title, which I thought was kind of hard actually, and I feel like it was harder than finding the color in the cover of the book. Anyway, let's just begin. I fear that my books are a little bit jumbled up because I just put down the books whenever I found the color. But basically, we need red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, pink, white, black, silver, and gold. So first up, we of course have red, white, and royal blue. You can take your pick of your color for this one, red, white, blue, but you can only use it once. So pick accordingly. If you haven't read this one yet, this is about the Crown Prince of England and the son of the American president. And they don't really know each other, but they make like a little media kerfuffle, and they have to pretend that they really like each other, even though they actually hate each other. Of course, that doesn't last. You know where this is going. For red, you can also start the Murderbot Diaries by Martha Wells with All Systems Red. This is the first one in the series, and I think the series is mainly novellas, but there is like one, maybe two full-length novels in the series, but most of them are novellas. And this is about Murderbot, who is a droid that has hacked their system, so they are self-governing, but they are hiding this fact because obviously they don't want to be put under the government, or not the government, but like the company's control again. So they're just hiding the fact that they can think for themselves, and all they really want to do is sit and watch television shows anyway. So they just get out, do the job that has been assigned to them, and whenever the company thinks that they are like powered down or whatever, they are basically watching television shows. I just love Murderbot as a character. The plot I found really great in the novellas. I think the full-length novels get a little bit too technical and science fiction-y for me, but I do love the novellas. For orange, you could read a classic, A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. Yeah, as far as I remember, I read this like years and years ago. But this is about a young guy who's like in a gang, and they end up being caught out by the government, and he is enrolled in this sort of, what's it called? Like this program where all the stuff that he likes, he is subjected to in order to like put him off it. So the circumstances that he sees all of these things that he likes are really horrible. So his brain is going to connect what he likes with horrible things, so that he doesn't like it anymore. And what he likes is violence. So you could also read The Priory of the Orange Tree. Full disclosure, I did DNF'd one pretty early on because I think the writing style just wasn't really for me. And I think Samantha Shannon is also the author of, God, what's it called? Hang on. Yeah, she's also the author of The Bone Season and that entire series. And I DNF'd that one too, so I just don't think Samantha Shannon is for me. But this has gotten really high reviews from all the other fantasy girlies, so if this is your thing, definitely check it out. For yellow, we do have Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kwong. I enjoyed this, but I did feel like it dragged on a little bit. And I feel that way with all the things I have read by R.F. Kwong. Like, I enjoy it, but it drags on, and in the end I just feel like she is beating us over the head with the point of the book. And normally I enjoy when the point is like spelled out, but I don't need it spelled out like 4 times, you know. So anyway, if you enjoy R.F. Kuang, this is a good one. For green, we have another classic, Anne of Green Gables. I have reread this a couple of times in the past few years and really enjoyed all the times, basically, because Anne is just such a wonderful character. In case you don't know this story, this is about Anne, an orphan girl who is adopted by Marilla and Matthew Cuthbert, a sibling couple on Prince Edward Island in Canada in the, is it like the turn of the century, 1900-ish, I believe. Don't quote me on that. And basically just her life in this little town and the friendships and enemies that she makes. Yeah, but she's just such a great character. Like I said, she finds the positivity and the whimsy in everything. So if you need a burst of like whimsifying your life, go to Anne. For blue, we have Blue Lily Lily Blue. This is the third one in a series, so if you do want to invest your time in a series, this is a really good one. It is the Raven Cycle, and the first book is The Raven Boys, and it's about Blue, who lives in this small town. I want to say, like, I don't think it's Maine, but like one of the other states in the US. So you could also use this for the road trip prompt, because this is definitely not set in like California or New York. Anyway, she lives in this small town, and there's this private school where all the rich kids go, and she's like just really fed up with their privilege and their entitlement. And she ends up meeting these 4 boys who have found each other at this school and become great friends. And they are hunting for a Welsh king who is supposedly buried on a ley line in this area. And they end up chasing this Welsh king together. Really great series. Definitely recommend it. For purple, I will recommend you The Color Purple. Another classic by Alice Walker, about this young girl who is living in the deep south in the United States between the wars, so between the First World War and the Second. And basically we just follow her life that is not that great until she meets another woman and sort of looks up to her and sees what her life could maybe become if she is brave enough to take action. You could also read Gin Patrol on the Purple Line. This is a book about some friends in Delhi in India whose other friend has gone missing, and they start out like investigating it for fun basically, and it turns out that the case is actually a lot more serious than they anticipated when other kids start to go missing as well. For pink, I'm cheating a little bit because I couldn't find a book that I had read with pink in the title. So I just recently watched the movie of this one. If you saw my mid-year freakout tag, you know that I really, really loved the movie. So I'm going to assume that the book is also of good quality. But this is basically when Hitler stole Pink Rabbit, and it's about this young girl who has to flee Germany with her family when Hitler comes to power in the mid-30s, and basically their lives as immigrants and refugees in Europe in the 30s and 40s. For white, I can recommend you The Devil in the White City, and this is basically at the same time about the World Expo in like 1893, I think it was, in Chicago, and one of America's first serial killers, Henry Holmes, So it's a non-fiction, and it's about how the World Expo came to be built up, because basically they built an entire city just for the expo. So a lot of the buildings were made out of, plaster work. So they weren't meant to last. And obviously a lot of people came to see this city and the World Expo and whatnot. And this Holmes guy had a hotel, and he basically lured especially women into his lair and killed them, and became a notorious serial killer. Again, here you can use a red, white, and royal blue for white if you don't like the true crime aspect. For black, I have Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. I really enjoyed this one. It's like a Mesoamerican inspired fantasy about this guy who all his life is meant to fulfill a prophecy, and his parents are on opposite sides of whether or not they think this is a good idea. His mom is all like, we need to sacrifice this kid for the prophecy because that was how it was foretold. And his dad is like, that is insane. Let's not do it. But yeah, the kid himself believes in his mom, so he works to fulfill this prophecy. And along the way, he meets other people who are supposed to help or hinder him. I did really enjoy this book when I read it, but not too long ago, maybe last year, I started the second book, which is called Fevered Star, I think, and I DNF'd it. And I don't know why that just didn't work for me. I don't know. But anyway, so read this at your peril. You might not like the second book. And for silver, we do have Silver Under Nightfall. This book, 5 stars, loved it, absolutely amazing. Hated the second book, Court of Wanderers. So again, read this at your peril, because you might not like the second book. Basically, it's about vampires and vampire hunters, and we follow Remy, who is from a family of vampire hunters, as he teams up with a couple of vampires in order to hunt down these eldritch creatures that have started emerging and are basically impossible to kill. Yeah, like I said, really enjoyed the first book, hated the second one. And it has been a couple of years since I read the first one, so I don't know if it's just because I changed, like my taste changed or what, but the writing style just really didn't work for me in the second book. Like I thought it was so unedited, really. And I didn't, in my memory, have that problem with this book. So I was like, why suddenly does it suck so hard? But anyway, for silver, you could also do Song of Silver, Flame Like Night. And I actually really enjoyed this one and the second one. So if you want to be more sure of liking the second book, definitely read this book. This is about a girl who basically can't remember her past really well, and she has this mysterious mark on her arm that she's trying to solve the mystery of. And she meets this guy who can see this mark, which no one else can, and they end up teaming up in order to find out what this mark means, because the guy has magic and can tell that the girl also has magic, even though she can't really access it because of this mark. And in their country, there are colonizers who have outlawed this magic, so they need to hide, find out what it is, and eventually overthrow the entire government, or like the colonizing government. So yeah, a lot happening in this book, but I really enjoyed it. And the second one is Dark Star, Burning Ash Falls White. So you could also use this one for the white prompt. For gold, I have the Golden Compass. This is the first one in Philip Pullman's Dark Materials series, about Lyra and dust. And this is I would say middle grade, but I feel like it does evolve later on. So it's more like older middle grade, older middle grade, younger young adult-ish, you know, in that like area. But this first one is Lyra discovering that dust exists in the world, and she sets out on a quest to figure out what it does and to try to save her friend who has been kidnapped by people who are investigating this dust. Absolutely can recommend it. I reread this pretty recently, and I need to reread the rest of the series because, like I said, really enjoyed it. That was my recommendations for you guys. So as for my own TBR, and I feel like this is where it's pretty jumbled as far as the colors go, but yeah, The White Pedestal: How White Nationalists Use Ancient Greece and Rome to Justify Hate. Does what it says on the tin. A non-fiction about how white nationalists use these ancient communities, or ancient civilizations, to justify their view of the world. And I feel like it's always good to read these kinds of things, so you have something to counter argue with if it comes to that so-called debate. For Black, I have put down Well Read Black Girl. I feel like I do remember when this one first came out, like years ago, and it is essays about Black authors basically finding their stories and themselves in, I assume, in the author space that has been predominantly white for a long time, and still is, where POC authors have a harder time having their books published. And I read Jane Austen's Bookshelf, and this one was mentioned in there, and you can also use this one for the anthology prompt. So read this for the main anthology, and then it is chock full of Black authors, so you can read stories from them. For Red, I do have Red Famine: Stalin's War on the Ukraine. Basically just because I am trying to learn more about politics, current and less current, if you will, but obviously the stuff, like historical stuff, does have an impact on the current stuff, so I feel like you can't really go wrong reading historical stuff like this. For Back to White, we have White Fragility and Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. And this one also came out like years ago, I believe, like during the Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah, and I noted it down at the time, so it is definitely time to actually read it. And obviously I am white, so I think this would also be a good one for me to read and learn something. And then back to Red. So The Red Winter by Cameron Sullivan. This is a book about a monster hunter who apparently has like this demon living inside him that can help with hunting these monsters, and the guy learns that there's a werewolf that has come back to town, basically. And he thought he had conquered this werewolf like 20 years ago, but now it's back, and he has to set out again in order to vanquish this beast, even though the last time it almost killed him. And I do believe that Gavin Reads It All really enjoyed this one, so I'll take that as a recommendation. Then we have Blue Sisters, and honestly, I'm not sure this is gonna be for me, because it is like literary fiction, which is not really my jam, and Jack Edwards loved it. And I love Jack Edwards and his videos, but we do not have the same reading taste, so yeah, but we'll see if I can find any other blue books, then I could do this one. For Black, we do have Epidemics and Society from the Black Death to the Present, just because I am interested in the Black Death and how it impacted society, like what the implications were and how we are still affected today, if we are. So I think that sounds really interesting. For Green, like I told you, we were all over the place with these colors. I do have Delilah Green Doesn't Care, and this is a romance by Ashley Herring Blake. I do believe Kayla read it like years and years ago and recommended it, and I feel like I don't usually read romance, but every once in a while I do find it like a good palate cleanser. Yeah. This is about a woman who has left her small town in favor of New York City, but she has to return in order to help her stepsister, half-sister, do, like basically she's coming back to do the wedding photography for her sister. And she runs into her sister's best friend, and apparently Delilah has some issues to take out on this small town because she didn't have the best childhood there. So yeah, but obviously hate turns to love, like it always does. Again, for Red, we do have Cobalt Red, about the cobalt mines in the Congo and the horrific conditions there, and the price that the Africans are, or the Congolese are paying in order for us to have the newest iPhone every year. So yeah, I really want to educate myself on more of that. For Pink, I found Pink Pilled, Women and the Far Right, and again, this is me trying to educate myself a bit more on politics. And this was basically the most interesting book that came up when I searched Pink. So some of these TBR books are not, super well researched or recommended, especially to me, but they do sound interesting. I am interested in reading them, so they're not just like random. For Green, I have When the Earth Was Green, Plants, Animals, and Evolution's Greatest Romance. I do believe it was Kayla, again, who recommended this one, a nonfiction about ancient plants and animals and how they affect the world today. For Blue, I actually did try this book and I DNF'd it because I don't know, it just didn't really jive with me, like the writing style, and also I listened to it on audiobook and the audio narrator was just kind of weird. I don't know. But yeah, The Blue Sword by Robin McKinley. So this is like off the TBR again. I might, like if I'm desperate, I might come back to this and read it physically. Because the narrator definitely didn't help this. But I just felt like I was a good chunk in and nothing had really happened yet. And the characters were just kind of weird, and I don't know, it just didn't really work for me. Then we have The Black Tides of Heaven by Neon Yang. And this is about a set of twins, and as far as the synopsis was a little bit confusing. So as far as I understood, they are like sold by their mom, who's a god, I think. So they're sold into this place where they're supposed to train their magical abilities and help. It's not a government, but the system. And the guy rebels and leaves and joins the rebels, like actually rebels. And then it's just about him like fighting against his sister, and can he really do that, or will he, like, how can he reconcile his twin sister with being on opposite sides of this fight? For Purple, you see the color purple again. I did read it ages and ages and ages ago. I'm pretty sure I didn't just watch the movie. And when I say ages ago, it was like 30 years ago. So I feel like, I know that Q doesn't really count rereads for her kid, but I do. I have decided that for myself, rereads count. But even if I didn't count rereads, I feel like this one wouldn't count as a reread because it's been so long. Yeah. For silver, I have The Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. Okay, again, the synopsis is a little bit confusing, but basically there's a knight and a witch, and we are in like a medieval inspired-esque Britain, and it is it sort of runs on fairy tales, and this knight and the witch, they are always doomed to fall in love, but to destroy each other in doing so. So when this particular knight and this particular witch start to fall for each other, they start wondering if they can break this cycle and this curse, if you will. And at the same time, there is someone going after these fairy tales that the country is running on, so they also need to figure out what's going on there. Then we also have How Much of These Hills is Gold, and this is set in the gold rush in America, but with Chinese immigrants, which I think is a really interesting point of view, because I haven't read a lot with that setting and point of view. Basically, it's about these two kids who lose their parents, and they set out on a journey to bury their father in the correct way. And on this journey, they come across like a lot of stuff. Again, the synopsis was not really super fulfilling, so yeah, I guess we'll just have to read it and see. And that is it for my rainbow of words. Definitely a lot of good selections in there. A lot of non-fiction, actually, surprisingly. But let me know what you are reading for all the colors, but maybe especially the pink and purple. I feel like those were kind of hard to find something for. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye!